Hi, welcome to our new mini series. This series is all about carving the path beyond the corporate ceiling for yourself. This is Alma and Rachana, and we are calling this podcast the CEO. This is all about you carving that path for yourself beyond the corporate ceiling. And along the way, you are going to meet all kinds of naysayers and all kinds of obstacles. And we're here to share with you how we met those and how we clear them out of our own path. And this series is all about targeting women professionals excelling their corporate careers, but contemplating starting their own business. And the goal of this series is to engage, inspire, and guide you through the critical decision-making process while providing practical advice and support. So we welcome all of your feedback. We welcome all of your questions. Rachana and I have both been in corporate and settings for...
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri likes to talk to me. Okay, Siri, let's mute you. So there we go. We have been on this path for a couple of decades now, and we have both carved our own path beyond the corporate ceiling, and we know what it's like to have those desires to go out there and start something new, start something of your own, carve your own path, but have all kinds of voices, sometimes your own, sometimes other people's voices telling you, who are you? Why would you be good at it? No, you're not that good at it. Why aren't you happy? What will it take to make you happy? Are you ever satisfied? And so forth and so on. So that's what this one is all about. And please just share with us what your journey has been like and what problems you have faced. So now I'm gonna give it over to Rachana.
Hi, Alma. Yeah, when we talked about this series, this was such a big topic because it's not only something that we've experienced, but we've also mentored and counseled many other women through this process. And I know it's not a simple fix. It's unfortunately it's not a one size fits all like many of these things. And so part of our mission today, or part of our mission for the whole series, is really to demystify some of these burning questions, some of these deep desires, and knowing whether they're just flippant, whether they're worth the risk. How do you weigh this up? Like, no one ever teaches this stuff to you. And how do you know when to lean into intuition or to follow your mind and your needs and all the other things? So all these questions get thrown up, and that was really the purpose, was to help anyone in this situation, anyone that feels like, am I missing out? I'm great at what I do, but could I be better at something else? And this is something else that I've really wanted to do. Am I being silly? And I've got all these people relying on me. How do I just flip like that? All these questions, hoping that we can give you at least a start point, at least to ask yourself the right questions to get yourself to your end result. And so that's really where we're coming from today. And today's episode is all about the pain of the crossroad, but the pain of being stuck between that success and the desire to do something else. And Alma, I know you have your own story, but maybe you can indulge us with what that felt like for you.
Yeah. You know, I come from a rather entrepreneurial background. On my father's side, I grew up in a farming environment. So everything that all the goods that were exchanged and sold and bought, that was really entrepreneurship. I got to witness it, right? Because I got to see my grandparents and my extended family buy and sell livestock and grains and fruits and vegetables, and we lived off of that. It was, but then there were also people in my family who were teachers and electricians and engineers and people who actually had jobs, right? My mom, my dad, and my uncle, a lot of people within that same entrepreneurial ecosystem actually had jobs. So it was very confusing to me, right? But, well, if you want to do this, why are you also doing that, right? and why aren't we all in on this? And why are some of us doing that? So it was very confusing, but it got my wheels spinning, so to speak,
Mm.
right?
So it's
And
almost
when
like
I
a hybrid model.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So, my dad died when I was very young, and he was an electrician, but I witnessed my uncle who was living in the same area as us. He was a farmer, but he was also a biology teacher. And
Right.
it was like, which one are you?
Yeah.
So for me, when it was time to decide what I wanted to do for my living, it was like, well, I want to be this, and I also want to be that, and I also want to be this, and I want to do this. And a lot of the friends that I had, they would go and become, I don't know, a microbiologist, an accountant, an engineer, a teacher. So they would just kind of pick that one lane and stay in it.
Use it. Yeah.
And that just didn't make sense to me. Like, if I live, for example, 80, 90, I don't know how many years, I can't see myself doing one thing this entire adult life. I just could not
Yeah.
see that happening. And then I would think that something was wrong with me, right? And then I picked the most sensible career. I became an accountant. Of all things, I became an accountant. And I'm like, okay, everybody needs accountants, so here I am. Probably the least fitting
Yeah.
role for my
Right.
personality.
Right.
And I did well with it.
Yeah.
I did. I wasn't amazing at it, but I did well. But it was just something that I did. So I always knew it. I didn't want to just do one thing, right? So that's my path. That's my journey.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's so prevalent in many people's lives, especially certainly in our area. You choose a profession, you choose something. There's no longer anything called a job for life. And so having that mentality that you can be a marketing person and you can go into I don't know, law, and you can go into another thing. That just wasn't something that we were conditioned to believe we could do. And that's a really key point, isn't it? It's part of the conditioning that we're brought up with. And then seeing your own family putting many hats on because, they had to, or maybe it was just much easier for them for it to be done. I don't know the reasons, but there are different frameworks, and it's what you believe you can do. And I think part of the big problem is that if you are in a job, if you are working in a corporate environment and you're doing pretty well, you're rising up the ranks, it's that point in time where you're like, okay, I'm good at this, I like it. Do I love it? No, but I like it, and I be a fool to let this go because that I'm being recognized and rewarded for a pipeline dream that I have. I don't know, producing t-shirts, be it or whatever it is. I don't want to look back and go, oh, I just blew it. What was I thinking? It's those decisions that people find themselves in, and it's knowing whether it's whether you can risk it all or whether you need to risk it all to follow that dream, that passion, whatever other thing it is. And that's a really tricky question for many people to navigate. And I feel like lots of people go through their lives certainly staying put because there's the risk element. Oh, there's a risk
Yeah.
element in everything, but there's a huge unknown risk. It's unquantifiable. Yeah, sure, it could do really well, but it could go really bad. And then my family suffer. I look like a fool. People are really laughing behind my back. There's all these things that come up, you let yourself down, you let your family down. I can't go back and ask my job back. I'll never get back to the same place I was.
It's embarrassing, right? It's admitting failure.
And it's also, do I go back lower? And I mean, it's not just me that's impacted, it's my family. I've got more to consider. And so these are all really valid questions. So how, really digging deeper during this session, I want to allay some of those fears and understand the questions that people should be asking themselves in order to get to their answer. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
we're all different and we all have different motivators and values, as you know, but so it's going to differ for each of us. But what are some of the questions that you think, if you are in this position, if you do feel like, okay, do I rock the boat? I know that every day I'm wasting time if I don't move, but then at the same time I don't want to make the wrong move. What are some of the questions?
I'm gonna actually turn that one on you, Rachana,
Okay.
because I've known you for a while now, and I know your background is in law and finance. And for you, what were some of the questions that were going through your head when you decided to take them?
Honestly, for me, it was a huge amount of it, as you know, Alma, was the fear of failure and what others would think. You know, there's a certain amount of check boxing that you do in your life, and it's like, oh, I checked this box off, and I checked this box off, and it's like great, but how does that make you feel? And I got to a point where I didn't know where I fit anymore. I was like, I just don't get it. I'm at home, I'm with the kids, I had a nice career, but I don't want to go back to that career, and I don't know where I fit. Like I know I can be of value. I know I want to help people, but I didn't know what that would look like. And honestly, I may have been a bit of a snob about it and thought, well, it's, you know, it's not really ranked. Like, how do I ascertain some sort of, how do you ascertain the credibility? It's not like you go to law school, you go here and you go, oh God, I got the certificate, here it goes. So I was entering into this really an unknown realm for myself, which I think many people can feel that way when they're moving into
Mm-hmm,
something.
mm-hmm.
And that unknown really terrified me because it felt like going into the Wild West. I was like, okay, so no one tells you whether you've done a good job. You don't have an appraisal. It's you and your client. And yes, your client will tell you, but you don't want to be the one going, how am I doing now? You know, it was this real.
Exactly, exactly.
A lot of that was, yes, getting over the fear of unknown, but it was also, for me, the biggest question was, what will I lose if I don't do it?
Mm,
When I wrote that question down, I remember thinking, if it doesn't work out, if what I decide doesn't work for whatever reason, I lose a little bit of my pride. But actually, I don't. It didn't. In my situation, certainly, it didn't displace my family on a big scale, which I know is a completely different level of, you know, of hold on people. But that was my biggest question. What would I lose? And I knew I couldn't go on with life like at the end of my life and go, oh, you didn't try because you were too scared. So that was a huge question for me to answer. And just like, what was I scared of, or who was I scared of? Who was I worried about disappointing?
mm-hmm.
Once I answered those questions, I then had to move on to the last one, well, not the last question, but certainly a big one for me, which was, how much of my identity do I attach to a role that I no longer have? You know what I mean? Like, I used to be this and I used to be that, but I no longer am. I'm now a mum and a wife. And so sort of carving out this new identity, it's like it seemed scary because it wasn't defined. And the way I dealt with it, I turned it on its head and said, listen, this is my opportunity to define it the way I want to, which was one of the big problems for me actually when I was going up that ladder. It's like it felt so defined. Yeah, I'd say those three were critical questions that I had to answer. I'm
Yeah,
sure you have many more.
yeah, absolutely. And when you have those questions, right, the mind wants to answer them, or sometimes it even wants to dismiss them. It's like, yeah, yeah, but,
Mm.
and we don't have to be pulled into every thought we have, right? We don't have to be pulled into every negative or fearful thought. But we do have to sit in that discomfort, I believe,
Yeah.
right? In the unknown and the head full of questions and fears, right? And just
Right.
kind of like sitting in that heat of it all.
I know that that discomfort, though, we have a saying that, nothing good comes out of being comfortable. And it's all very well saying it and it's all very well sitting in it. But that actually that gave me a lot of comfort knowing that anything big that's ever happened in my life was never comfortable. It's certainly not the start. Nothing is ever comfortable at the start. And so I feel like if you can embrace that simple ideology that nothing good is comfortable at the start, it does ease some of that anxiety, some of the pain, to know that you're doing something that's of value, because we place value on so many things. We value other people's opinions over our own. We value monetary contributions. But again, it's like trading up the monetary contributions that you're earning from your corporate job with the potential that is so unknown. It's like this pie in the sky, and you're like, yeah, but listen, this is real life. Am I really going? I mean, am I really going to get that? And so it's almost like reining in those dreams. It's like, okay, that could be, but that's not a guarantee. And the safe job is, but here's the truth, no job is safe anymore. There is no safe job. You can get laid off tomorrow, and that's the reality of the world we live in. And I think like very rightly you said, we choose to let things in, and we choose to sort of, but I don't know, lean into the belief system. I know that my parents certainly felt like professional job, a good job. That's not going to guarantee you anything. And really, like, I'm not poo-pooing any of the professions or anything, but I think that things have changed so much that we are no longer, again, in a job for life. But it's knowing when to make that prudent decision. That's still there, okay? I'm not saying drop everything and go and start a balloon business,
No,
whatever it is.
no.
So there are ways of doing it where you can feel like you're pursuing your dreams, that hybrid model that you talked about. Pursue those things, start small. Something interesting that you told me right at the start was just start small. Like, and I tell myself this all the time. As soon as things get a bit too much, I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just remember, go back to what you wanted. I wanted to help one person. That was it. That was my goal. One person. Have you done that? Yes. Okay. So then it sort of grounds you and gets you back to, okay, I've helped that one person, or I've achieved that part of it, and now I'm looking to the next part, which is really uncomfortable again. So take it back to make it smaller. You don't
Make
have
it
to like
smaller.
have
Chop it up, right?
right. It's not, the dream is still there. It's still a huge dream, but you're not trying to get to the like, point of the dream. You're just trying to make that first step, the first step forward.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that helps.
I think it's really taking this leap, right? Taking
Yeah.
this next step. It requires a lot of decisions, right?
Mm.
There's so many decisions to be constantly made. And if you're a woman, which I know you and I are very passionate about working with women, we don't dismiss men, but we're not men, so we don't
Yeah.
know. So we relate to women. So if you're a woman, and especially whether you have a family or not, but let's say you do have a family and you have somebody or some things or some beings that you're responsible for, and you have bills to pay, and you have other dreams. Maybe your dream is to travel the world, or
Right.
to, I don't know, build an orphanage or whatever that is, right? So there's so many things already happening in your life, and then there's this voice here that says, hey, how about your balloon business? Since you mentioned that, well,
Right.
how about that thing?
Yeah.
So if you can't unknow that you have this desire pulling you towards that. So when you finally face your desire and you say, you know what, I have to do this, there are a lot of decisions to be made, right? There are a lot of no's to be said, right? A lot of no's, a lot of putting things on a shelf and saying, you
Right.
know what, that dream, I'm going to have to get
Yeah.
back to that later, or I'm going to have to say no to, I don't know, my Pilates class that I've been going to for the last 7 years but now I'm gonna go to a coffee
Right.
shop and work on my. So there are a lot of decisions to be made, and your brain says, I don't want to make all those decisions, right?
Right.
I'm okay. I'm okay. And
Right.
then it tells you, look, you have a good marriage, you have happy, healthy children, you have a safe job, you have this and that. So your brain is designed to talk you out of your heart's desires, because heart's desires are usually very risky for
Right.
the brain.
Yeah, and you're conditioned, your brain is conditioned to keep you safe and
Exactly.
make sure that, and the thing is, it's like be grateful for what you have, absolutely.
Mm,
But
yeah,
wanting more does not equal not being grateful for what you have. It's just this kind of, sometimes I hear people, they'll talk themselves down going, well, I should just be grateful for what I have. I have a great life. I have this, I have this, I have this. But they've still got that nagging urge to do something, to build something, to have something of their own. And it doesn't
absolutely.
mean that they're not grateful. They just want to give it a go. I think and women really, I mean, they have so much on their plate in terms of family dynamics and structure, especially if you've got a large family, and they tend to still be the main caretaker. And so I feel like we take it, a guy will just do it. A guy would just go, I'm just going to try it. And they're much more sort of, okay, if it fails, it fails. Whereas a woman would be like, oh my God, what will my friends from Pilates say? Or how will people see me? I mean, they haven't known me before. They've just known me as, I don't know, Claire's mom or who.
Exactly.
There's
Exactly.
all these like these excuses that creep in, and I say excuses because that's not the real meat of it, and you have to really go deep, don't you, Alma?
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the biggest for you? What were some of the biggest hindrances?
Gosh, Rachana, for me, my background.
Yeah,
For me, having been a refugee, I'm from Bosnia, and having been a refugee and having lived in Germany, when you're a refugee in Germany, you're kind of subhuman, right? You really don't have
yeah,
human rights,
right,
and that we refer to here. So you're never gonna make it. You just don't have the same opportunities. No offense to Germany, it's just that that's
yeah,
how the system is set up, right? And so I kind of, having been a refugee throughout Bosnia during the war, I still, even there, I knew my place. If I'm staying in somebody's house with somebody, I know that's not my house. I know I don't deserve to eat as much as their children do, because we're still in the war. So like, I know to eat less. I know
right,
to use less water. I know to
right,
exist less, right? To kind of
right,
go. So then Germany again, a little lower than your typical human status. So then, I came here to America and was like, okay, it looks like I can have the same rights, but I still have a broken English. I have an accent, and then it's like, look at me, I landed a good job. Oh, look at me, I got to go to college. Oh, so. When I started, and then I got married, and I got to have my beautiful daughter, and then I have a nice home. And it's like, whoa, 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 who are you to want even more than this, right?
right.
My brain just went nuts. It was like, when will you ever be satisfied? Cut that right underneath you. So I went through massive transformation that was just like, who are you to go from this status in life to wanting to start a business? Like, what? Sit down, girl, kind of thing. It was really, that voice was so abusive and demeaning. So it was just, I reached my ceiling, right? Like, even my mind was like, okay, too much, sit down. you know
Yeah,
and so I went through massive years of just back and forth, get a job, go start a new business, get a job, go start another business, get a job. I just went back and forth for so many years because I couldn't find my groove. So the best thing that I can actually ever say to anybody is find people who've done it, right? It's people who are like you. In my case, when I found another woman who was a refugee, she was actually a refugee from I talked to her and she's like, Yeah, girl, it's a privilege to be in this country, and I'm gonna exercise my privilege. I'm gonna exercise it all the
Yeah,
way for all the women who couldn't do this. And
right.
I know today I get to say things like that to other people, but when I first heard it, it was like, whoa, you have the right to say
I
that?
know.
And you gave me permission to say that?
Right. And that's so powerful, Alma, is doing it for more than you. I think when it's just for ourselves, we think, oh, God, I'm grateful for what I have, and I don't want to rock the boat. And you know, I have all these things, and I'm just wanting more, and I want to dim my light. Right? I don't want to be too much of anything. But when you're doing something, however little it is, you're paving the way for others. You're paving the way towards some change, and really that is key. Like, yes, this lady said, I'm doing this, I'm going to exercise my privilege. But for all those people that didn't get to do it, right, that's so powerful. And to keep that inside, it's bigger than you. It's not about you. So stop getting in your head about yourself. It's about
Exactly.
an idea that you want to develop further. You may not develop it to the end result. You may just develop the first part of it. That's okay. You
Exactly.
were part of that journey, that huge. And so I think we just need to stop getting in our heads. And we also need to surround ourselves. If this is a question that's burning inside you, yes, you have financial stability. You don't have to burn your ships. You can go and talk, as you rightfully say, talk to other people who have done it, other people who align to you, so that you can still support your family. You can still do things. It may mean that you have to give up certain things. It may mean that your time is not as much. There is not so much time for other things, but you know ultimately surrounding yourself with the right people is going to be such a game changer for you, because once you start hearing those stories and you start not even hearing but just having the advice, and yes, a lot of people will align to the same fears, and how did they deal with it, how did they overcome it, what did they do? Maybe they'll say, if I was in your situation, I wouldn't. You would be clearer in your own head as to the direction you're going, right? And we still have to be prudent. I don't believe that people just go, oh yeah, follow your dreams, just do it. It has, there's so many things that have to align. The timing, it has to work for
Yes.
you. You have to be in it. If you're half in it, there's no point. And doing something in a hybrid way doesn't mean you're half in it. It means you're being
Right. Yeah. And you still have to change the story, Rachana. I believe that, when I changed my story that my job was simply funding my dream, that changed everything for me, because my job was no longer the primary thing that I was
that's
focused on. I
right.
was I was doing it. I was doing a good job. I am a hard worker. I really truly identify with that. So I did my job so that I could fund my dream, right?
That's right.
So it was almost like, even though it was full time job, it was like my side gig. I saw it as my side gig, and
Right.
my real work was the work that I was building
Yes.
in a hybrid way. Yes,
Yeah, and then that way you've already built the foundation. So when you move, when you make that leap, you're not making the leap and having to start and build. You've done that hard work, but from an area of relative comfort, because you still have that financial support,
exactly.
which is
Yes.
what many people, it's worrying. Not many of us can just build business and go, hey, we've got no income for the next 2 years. Are we all good with that? It's not realistic. And
Yes.
so that's a really, really great thing. And I agree with that belief shifting. So just to finish this off, because I love to summarize, or I love to have a summary. If you are, you're sitting in the car and you're listening to this, and you're like, yeah, I've been wanting to do this forever. What would be 3 questions that you would ask yourself, and to help you kind of get started on this journey of decisions? Because it is an ultimate decision, isn't it? What are the 3 questions? I'm going to go back to.
Yeah. Well, you really want to know, what do I want, right? I know it's a simple question, and but most people know what they don't want,
Mhm.
right? So I don't, even when I ask some people, what do you want? What's your outcome? It's a simple question. Well, I don't want to work from 9 to 5 anymore, and I don't want to work long. Okay, I get what you don't want, but what is it that you do want, right? So just really be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, what do I want, right? Kind of future pacing yourself. Imagine standing in your favorite room of your house or on the cliff over an ocean, right? Whatever that is, whatever is the right place for you, and looking at your life. What is it that you want? What
And
kind of life do you
just
want?
to interject there, because some people might have difficulty actually answering, as you say, what do I want? Because we're not used to vocalizing what we want. We tend to know what we don't want or what others want. If you have trouble with that, maybe just say, who do I want to help? What do I want to help?
Absolutely. Who do I want? You can even do, one of my favorite things exercises that I like to do with people when they're trying to figure out what they want is the ikigai exercise. What do I love? Right? I'm drawing a circle here and turning into like little four slice pizza pie. What do I love? What am I good at? What makes money? Right? What could make me money? And what does the world need from me? Right? So kind of, so that can help you figure out what you really want to do.
I
Right?
agree. And I love that the four part, what you want. But again, if you can't, if you can't verbalize what you want, who do you want to help? Who are you passionate about? What are you, you
Absolutely.
know,
Yes.
okay,
What do you enjoy doing outside of your work hours, right?
right.
What brings you joy? What are you good at, right? So it's really that, just kind of getting clear. And most people will, again, Rachel, they will say, well, no, who wants to buy that? Who wants to buy that? I know a woman that, no joke, that you can look this up. She makes 40 selling palm fronds. I'm talking fronds from palm trees that have fallen off of a tree.
God,
They're like fell off. They're not even
right,
still attached. She doesn't even have to go cut them off the palm tree. Like they're down. They fell down,
right.
right? But she takes different types of palm fronds and she cuts them and she puts them together and she stages them in in her living room or her bedroom.
Mm.
So people who love that tropical vibe, it reminds them of their honeymoon in Hawaii or whatever. And she makes $47,000 a month selling those and shipping them across the country. So if she can make $500,000 a year selling fallen branches,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's what brings her joy. She loves doing it.
That's that's so yeah. I mean, it just shows. I think we have such it's these limiting beliefs. So number one, what is it that you want, or who is
What
it
is it
that
that
you
you
want
want?
to help? Number two, what's the
Yes.
second place to
Why?
go? Yeah,
Why? Why do you want it?
right,
Right? Why do
right.
you want it? For some of us, it's for to create a generational wealth because we were poor, right? So we want to do the opposite for our children. For some of us, it's because it brings us joy simply.
Yeah,
Some of us want to change the world, right?
right.
Why? There's no wrong reason,
No,
right?
and
Just
that's key, isn't it? There's no wrong reason. I think people
absolutely not.
try and sort of shirk away from, well, give me some financial benefit. Why? Financial freedom. That's so important for you. Don't feel like
Exactly.
you should be saying something else if that's what you feel.
Exactly. Absolutely. And if somebody judges you for your reason, that's not your person, right?
Right.
They're afraid of your
Right.
dreams. So, and then what prevents you from having that, right?
Mhm.
What's in the way? What are those fears, right? What are those voices? Who has an
What are the
influence?
voices and where are they coming from?
Exactly. Because I
Yeah.
can guarantee you they're not even your voices because they became somebody else's voices became your voices. So those are the three
Yeah.
questions. So that you can then say, aha, I see. That's my Aunt Sally who's constantly
Yeah.
judging me. Forget her, right?
Exactly. And the great thing about this little exercise that you're doing is it provides that clarity for you to really see things clearly, because I think we've got so many things coming into our heads and then we kind of dismiss the thought. But when you write it down and really write the answers to these three questions out, hopefully it will dispel some of those myths and the fog will be lifted and you will feel clearer about what your next step is. It's just getting over the initial hump. Like, it'll just make things clearer for you. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. 100%. And then you can say that, you know what, now I get it. Now I see it. This voice or this thing, is this even true? Is this even true? Right? You
That's
know?
right. That's right. It's not me. It's not even me speaking. I'm still listening to Aunt Sally, who, let's be honest, has no track record of relationships.
Exactly.
If you want to find a naysayer out there, there are plenty, by the way. There are
Absolutely.
plenty of people out there that will tell you that it's a terrible idea. I think everything that's successful, every event, everyone has been told that their idea is terrible and will never work. And they went on to do it anyway. Just that's the common thread. So if you're looking for that, you will find it.
Absolutely.
You will definitely
Imagine
find
if
it.
my palm frond girl listened to naysayers.
I know. I mean, that's amazing. I need to look her up now. But anyway, I
Yeah.
hope we have helped at least with those three questions that we just summarized for you. That will really get you going. So we'd love to hear from you. Ask yourself these questions. If you're in this situation, did they help you? What did you learn from today? What can you add? Is there anything that you think we missed? But we'd love to hear from you. So please reach
Yes.
out.
Absolutely. All right, guys. See you next time. And we can't wait to address all of your questions.
Bye. Okay, so you know where I'm coming from here. When you're in that in-betweeny stage, it's like you really want to do something. You're comfortable in your job, you're cruising, you're doing so well, but you know that you've always wanted to set up something else by yourself. Or maybe it's a business, whatever it is. And you're thinking, all the things, all the reasons why I cannot do this. I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm going to fail. Everyone's going to be like, I told you so. I cannot believe you left this high paying job. I hate social media. I don't want to be marketing myself. I mean, all these things come
You
into
don't want
play.
to be
It's like
dancing?
all of a sudden you're going to, and I'm going to be poor and I'm going to be out in the streets homeless at the end of the year. Why would anyone buy from me? There's just so many reasons why this could not work. And I'm a fool to give up what I have, like bird in hand, for this pipeline dream.
Mm,
But for some reason, I can't stop thinking about it. And here's the thing, like, will I regret it, or will I just in years to come go, "God, I made the mature choice. I've got a pension and I have, I have retirement fund." I mean, it is just,
died on the
yeah.
inside.
Oh my God. And it's honestly, I think most of us go, right, I'm going to stick with what I have because this is what I have and this is what I know. And that sounds really scary. I know I had all those questions bubbling in my head. And I was like, this is just especially, and you know this, I found it really hard to get on social and share stuff. I was like, I don't
Mm,
want to share stuff. Why do I want to share this stuff? And so all these things, because you do have to wear many hats, and you do in this market, you do have to be a marketer and all these things rolled into one. So I get it. It's a really hard place to be.
absolutely.